A great philosopher once wrote, and I couldn't agree more, or less. I don't really understand what he's actually saying. Among the most successful PS1 developers were those who, when deciding what to make their new game about, simply plumped for whatever was selling well with the young people of the time. You know, like Dinosaurs. The moment you take a step away from the cartoony platformers and big-name racing hits that the original PlayStation is partly famous for, you'll find a plethora of games that are utterly brimming with sources of mild peril. You know, like Dinosaurs. Whether it was the pigmen of Duke Nukem, the guards of MGS, or the creepy demons of Soul Reaver, the PS1's action-adventure scene had it all, and, would you believe it, was even home to things like Dinosaurs, I think. I mean, these could just be bootleg Digimon, if we're all being honest. And so today we're going to be looking at some of the stranger PlayStation titles centered entirely around these so-called terrible lizards. And I do mean entirely. There are dozens upon dozens of games on this system in which dinos are credited with a supporting role. Crash 3, Spyro 2, Tomb Raider, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, A Twitch in Time. Ugh. But to find the games that are all big teeth and tiny arms from start to finish, you do have to dig a little deeper, if you'll pardon the dig thing. Alright, I think I'm ready to go. Let's begin with a very quick look at something that's not so much weird as unusual. A PS1 owner's very first taste of dinosaurian action on the console may well have been this little oddity, found on all but the last two versions of the Demo 1 disc that came bundled with the unit. PS1 Dino, as it is often called, is essentially just a tech demo, existing for no other reason than to depict a very toothy T-Rex on a relentless march, accompanied by music that unnerved even the bravest of 20th century kiddywinks. With the option to make the Tyrannosaur do a Tyranno roar, or to completely invert the camera. Why does it let you do this? The suits at Sony allowed PS1 Dino to show off the cutting edge of late 90s gaming and dared to ask their customers,
"Does this excite you?"
To which I rather defensively replied, "No, it's just the way my trousers bunched up when I sat down." Unusual as it is though for a demo disc to feature a playable experience that isn't actually taken from an upcoming game, PS1 Dino did still give us a taste for future titles that would include playable T-Rexes. Because who the hell wants to play as the human in a dinosaur video game? Hey, Dino Crisis?
That's disgusting.
Someone bring me my copy of The Lost World forthwith. Ah yes, The Lost World Jurassic Park on PS1, aka the DreamWorks interactive game that, no word of a lie, opens with the wholesome little moon boy being torn to pieces by a pack of velociraptors. We are in for something here. This game is almost everything you could ever want from an adaptation of The Lost World, in that it has almost nothing to do with the movie whatsoever. Not that there's anything majorly wrong with the film itself, but come on, it's no JP1. Oof, look at that. Then again, the one thing we might have enjoyed if this game had been more of a direct tie-in would have been playing as your boy Jeffrey at some point. But to make up for the game's lack of, sex appeal, the marketing team went out of their way to make it very clear that you're the T-Rex. What? Really? Oh, let's go. Oh. I don't think that's a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Alright, so you don't get to play as a T-Rex from the get-go, but you know what? I don't mind waiting. This is actually a pretty engaging, if fairly unforgiving, 2.5D side-scroller, with some unexpected level variety, packed as it is with a Brachiosaur stampede, a gunman boss battle, and even a swimming segment, and that's only in this first chapter. On your journey from bug-chomping compy to with fangs like these who needs dexterity, you'll play through some admittedly tedious human missions that probably only Capcom enjoyed, but also an incredible raptor chapter that not only felt utterly invigorating to tear through, but also featured an introductory cutscene that made me wet my trousers, as well as any other trousers I could find to wet in the vicinity. I was that scared. I've talked about it more than once in previous videos, but for those who are still unfamiliar, all you need to know know is that it's the helmet cam footage of a lone man trying to get away from an entire pack of raptors. Despite his colleagues trying to reassure him over the radio, the helpless man states with audible terror in his voice that before being swamped by red markers on the minimap, tumbling to the floor and saying, I was 5 when this game came out. Still, at least I had this to look forward to. Yep, there's literally a button on your controller that makes the T-Rex roar whenever you want. That's gotta be one of cinema's most iconic sound effects. You can also do that bone-chilling velociraptor bark. But I'd rather spend my time doing sick flips, to be honest. Oh yeah! Now, in case it wasn't obvious, the apparent shade I've been throwing at Dino Crisis so far was very much tongue-in-cheek. That's a great series, but just a bit too mainstream to actually cover in playback. But either way, it has to be said that this game genuinely is all about the playable dinosaur sections. The T-Rex can do everything from smash through logs and gates, eat its prey whole or otherwise chuck them around, and even play piñata with these high hides. It's true though that, brilliant gameplay aside, The Lost World is also a treat for your ears throughout, not only in its use of these iconic dino sound effects, but also in its stunning soundtrack, arranged by a then little-known composer called Michael Giacchino. You know, the same one who then went on to score for Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and fittingly enough, the Jurassic World trilogy. It's so cool to think that his mainstream success pretty much started with this game, but even cooler still when you realise that he literally referenced one of the tracks he made for this score in Jurassic World. Have a listen to this. And now check out the music for Jurassic World's truck chase. That is literally a PS1 reference in an ongoing blockbuster movie series. I love it. Still, this game isn't faultless. For starters, the frequent platforming segments are constantly marred by terrible controls, and I'll say again, screw the human levels. Do you remember that bit in the movie where a not Jeff Goldblum generic gun dude killed 25 raptors with an assault rifle down a coal mine? Yeah, neither do I.
I really hate that man.
Then again, in fairness, this game isn't 100% devoid of Dr. Malcolm, if you include the post-credits cutscene in which he congratulates you on completing the game.
Hello, if you can hear me, congratulations. Way to go, you made it through.
And then apparently encourages you to switch off your console and go and find someone with whom to engage in sexual congress.
Breathe the air, take a walk, call a member of the opposite sex, you know what I'm talking about.
Again, I was 5 when this game came out.
Okay, I go.
Brilliant. Now at this point, you might expect me to start waxing lyrical about the PS1's other Jurassic Park game, which is perhaps even more unusual than this one, in that it's a 1v1 fighter where you, again, play as the dinosaurs. I'm talking, of course, about Warpath Jurassic Park, but while I may well come back to this game in a future episode about weird fighting games, I can't very well sink any of today's runtime into talking about how strange this is when Primal Rage exists. Lurking behind this very unnerving box art, Primal Rage is the PS1's other dinosaur fighting game, and handily you can tell it's a PS1 title by the unsightly way it says PlayStation version 1.0 on the front menu. Good to know. Thanks. The game starts as it means to go on, with a weird as heck intro cutscene, which is seemingly narrated by a native English speaker who decided not to point out the script's horrendous grammar.
There were a great fire running in the sky, becoming mightier as it go, into a giant old star. The great fire crashed with a mighty crash, exploding to everywhere.
The FMV peaks with a very unconvincing bit of dinosaur combat, and then a single blurry freeze frame as the game's title is read out by the voiceover artist. No text on screen, no logo, just this.
For Primal Rage.
top banana. However, one thing the game should be applauded for when you get beyond this dreadful first impression is its use of stop-motion animation for the in-game models. Though the PS1 port doesn't really have enough definition or frame rate to truly show off the effect, this style was pretty much unheard of in gaming at the time, and at least on the arcade original, still holds up pretty well today, actually. With your Dinosaurian warrior, and admittedly I use the term Dinosaurian very loosely because, yeah, I don't... You'll execute a wide variety of moves on your opponent and gain the respect of these post-apocalyptic worshippers as you progress, before entering the pre-finale feasting frenzy level, in which you boost your health by eating as many of them as you can. That's nice. But what are you working towards as a reward for completion? I've played Tekken. Do we get a unique ending FMV for each warrior? No, think smaller. It's just a splash screen of your triumphant warrior, and in this case an extremely graphic one that I genuinely find a little disturbing even today. It's put me right off my lunch anyway. It's perhaps no wonder then that this game came under fire when it initially underwent its transition from the arcade to home consoles. Mrs. Ellie Rovella of Gilbert, Arizona, for example, was absolutely appalled when her 11-year-old son came home with a Sega Genesis copy of the game in 1996. Probably because of this stuff, right? Oh, no, actually, it says here that she watched in horror as her child selected one of the ape characters and executed his golden shower fatality, in which he urinates all over the corpse of his opponent. Best Buy promptly removed the game from 251 of its stores. Okay, fair enough. But time for something a little gentler now, and with minimal water sports, if possible. Can we arrange that? Quick show of hands. Who thinks the first dance at my wedding should be to the tune of Crash Bash's loading screen? Because my god, this anthem. As PS1 party games go, Crash Bash was something between okay and pretty good. You know what it wasn't though? It wasn't fair game for French developer Similis to completely rip off in the worst ruddy way possible. Introducing Dino Master Party. First question, what the hell is that? Second question, what the hell is that? Third question, what the hell is that? This game is everything that Crash Bash is glad it wasn't. Look at the level of imitation going on here, and despair at the fact that it's not even been done with a decent level of polish. Everything from the character selection screen, the minigame instructions, the pickups, the arenas, and the HUD is a cheap copy of Eurocom's work. It's absolutely criminal. In fact, this game arguably steals from
Primal Rage
as well, in that it's packed with cack-handed text, presumably mistranslated by a person who speaks neither the original French nor even plain English. From the intro text that asks, "Will you be their chief? You must proof it now," right up to the end screen which declares, "Congratulations, you are now respected and appreciated from everybody." This whole thing is an interpretational train wreck. Even the character selection screen blunders its way through its description of the playable T-Rex in the most hilarious way. The most ferocious dinosaur is ready for everythings to not tarnish its image of big nasty. Its smile augurs nothing good. Meanwhile, Ankyle over here has a very bad personality. It is grumbling. And Christ, Crash Bash might have been a bit repetitive, but you have to admit that every game type was fun for at least a couple of rounds each. Here though, it's all just soul-destroying from the get-go. There's a broken version of the Bandicoot's pogo stages in which you bank your squares not by navigating to randomly spawning purple boxes, but by simply doing lengths of the course, meaning everyone spends most of the time going up and down non-stop for the entire game. Oh, thrilling. Elsewhere, there's a free-for-all brawler game type, again, just like Crash, except here you're locked into a grid, which is flipping wonderful. Then there's this almost identical mode that can only be distinguished by the fact that there are a few rollable boulders dotted around the screen. Astounding. Really, the only morsel of fun to be had in this title is the musical chairs gameplay that is Meteor Shower, in which there are not enough caves between the four of you in which to take shelter from the incoming asteroids. Just ignore the sound effects, for the love of God. with walking animations that don't even loop properly, artificial difficulty spikes that just entail half the fricking world spontaneously combusting in later levels, and the fact that you can occasionally start around by being randomly spawned on the same square as one of the debuff pickups that reverses your controls. Dino Master Party is less bargain bin and more bin. Just put it in the bin. So what else is left as far as PS1 dinosaur games go? I ought to at least acknowledge the existence of Disney's Dinosaur, but this thing is so damn boring and the presentation's so grainy that there's honestly not even anything to laugh at here. It's just tedious. So is that it? We've looked at a couple of oddities, we've name-checked Dino Crisis, we've covered the Jurassic Park franchise. That's gotta be your lot, right? Not quite. There's still one IP we've left untapped. No, not you. What time is it? Yeah, that's right. It's Land Before Time. It's the Land Before Time. This franchise has several offerings on the PS1, two of which are actually somewhat respectable considering the target audience. The Land Before Time Return to the Great Valley is a platform game seemingly set in the most trademarked cinematic universe in all of pop culture, now presented in 3D. And my god, you're gonna wish it wasn't. Beyond the intro though, this is exactly what a kid's platformer should be, actually. Suitably repetitive and straightforward, and lots of bright colours and happy music. No major quibbles from me here. And the Land Before Time Great Valley Racing adventure is also pretty respectable. As long as you don't watch the terrifying developer logo at the beginning, oh my god! Containing all the obligatory fare of the genre. Varied tracks, collectible power-ups, such as this speed boost that makes Ducky go like a doped-up Russian Olympian, as well as alternate paths, slightly disturbing hazards to avoid, both now and in tonight's nightmares, and even a completely separate obstacle course mode with its own unique levels. Nice. It's just a shame then that the franchise missed out on the hat trick with the Land Before Time Big Water Adventure, which is more like one big... well, it's not very good, that's all I'm saying. For starters, Petrie the Pterodactyl accompanies you for the entirety of your side-scrolling adventure, never ceasing to provide such helpful chatter as...
What Mo brought you? Find out with the L button.
What do you... the L button? I guess he's more of an N64 kind of guy. And that is just the start. You name it, this game gets it at least a little bit wrong. The animations are jarringly exaggerated. Oh, Jesus! The controls are spongy, and half the collectibles float around the place unnecessarily, making it shockingly difficult to grab them at times. The only thing this game can boast over its counterparts is that its cutscenes are a lot crisper than the others, so now you can get an even more nauseating view of screaming dinosaur babies. Spike probably has the right idea when it comes to this game, in that whenever he reaches the end of a level, he drops down dead. Peace at last, eh, buddy? So there we go. That's the Land Before Time for you. Hang on. Why does this look so bootlegged? What? Oh. Right. Time for this now, is it? Okay. No doubt we'll eventually do a much deeper dive on all of the horrendous Dino Pictures animations that were brought to the PS1 by both Phoenix Games and Midas Interactive.
That sounds bad.
But for those of you who are somehow unfamiliar, all you need to know right now is that this Land Before Time imitation video game exists, except that it sort of doesn't, in the sense that it's not really a video game at all. Other than an insultingly low quality paint tool and one of those awful sliding picture puzzles that I just can't do, there is nothing more on offer here than a quote-unquote feature film that puts the terrible in terrible lizards. Like every single one of the animations produced by actual charlatans Dino Pictures, most of which are based on Disney movies, the whole thing is a remarkable lesson in how to coil out one great big unbroken turd at 15 frames per second over 40 stinking minutes. From the dire animations which are constantly recycled over and over, to the utterly sinful voice acting and sound quality.
Don't think so.
This thing will constantly surprise you in ever worsening ways. Oh my god, what in the name of piss? The story begins with all of the dinosaurs walking, or whatever this is, walking to the hatching site of a new baby. Everyone's here, even Meme Boy. It's just like the Lion King. Oh, I think he's about to hatch. Oh, it's a bouncing baby Neopet.
It's a boy and a really big one.
God, poor Blighter. You have to feel sorry for any character born into this world. I mean, can anyone tell me what the crap is going on here?
Just you wait, I'll give you authoritarian.
This happened less than 5 minutes into the film, and it's got nothing on what's yet to come. It transpires that the newborn dinosaur, Tio, as in Tio Pets, I guess, decides he wants to learn how to fly so that he can just take off and play truant when he gets bored at school. You know, dinosaur school. But, unsurprisingly, his attempts don't go well.
What the hell is going on here?
Yeah, good question, hell if I know. The quality of finish here is just abysmal in every respect. And I don't just mean these facial animations, although, incidentally, this close-up of the Yi guy's head is probably the worst thing I've seen all year. That's a level of detail that nobody asked for.
Isn't there anything you can turn on your machine?
But even beyond the abominable visuals, the actual audio editing process was seemingly slapdash at best. At one point, I think you can actually hear one of the voice actors whispering something as the scene fades to black. Then, midway through this crocodile's line, someone else is clearly mumbling in the background.
We would love to help you look, but we have to find water urgently.
And towards the end of the runtime, the woman who voices Tio reads too far ahead in the script and tries to deliver someone else's line at the same time as him.
But I wasn't as against it as you were.
Stop it, you two.
How did this stuff make it to the final cut? Just do another take, especially if you're literally mispronouncing words.
But how do you predict an eruption with that strange contraption over there?
Ironically, one of the worst culprits for voice acting flubs is the narrator, because of course it is. The strangest thing about her, though, is she takes the form of a duck, who, for starters, would never have coexisted with the dinosaurs, so, but she also sits with her legs so far apart that there's a very good chance this video will be flagged as inappropriate. But what tale does she actually tell, I hear you cry? Well, actually, you might be surprised to learn that the whole thing turns into an unintentional creepypasta about halfway through, I swear to God. It all starts with some local tectonic activity in which the ground starts to shake, accompanied by what I think is genuinely supposed to be a rumbling sound effect, despite the fact that it sounds like a snippet of music.
What was that?
What's that? I don't see anything.
The ground moved.
I don't feel a thing.
Following this, there's a fairly harrowing volcanic eruption scene in which all the dinosaurs, many of which are children, scream and run for cover, a lot of them perishing in the lava. Emerging from their shelter a week later, our protagonists wander around the wasteland concluding that all of their family and friends are dead. And then there's this really creepy clip of everyone crying for 5 seconds straight whilst a pretty nightmarish soundtrack plays underneath. I don't like this at all. I thought this was going to be funny.
Not all the dinos had managed to get away in time and were dead.
And public service announcement, if you settle in and watch this thing purely for the purposes of finding the Yi meme in its natural habitat, you are sure to be disappointed. For starters, you'll have to sit through about 40 minutes of this junk before it actually comes around, and then you'll promptly discover that the source audio comes from the Italian dub rather than the English. Here's the original.
Mamma e papà hanno un nuovo bebè, non se ne sono più niente di te.
And here's our version.
When your parents have a new kid, out you go on the dustbin lid. Peek.
All in all, I think no clip encapsulates this whole thing better than the following. After being jumped by a bunch of gorillas whilst chowing down on some grass,
Who allowed you to eat our grass?
the characters disclose that they have a volcano prediction machine, at which point the one female voice actor comes in way too early to deliver the alpha gorilla's line, and then the Yi fella literally burps out his reply like some sort of Rick and Morty fan. It's unbelievable.
I invented a machine that predicts the eruption of the volcano.
Why? And why did you not predict this terrible eruption?
I gave in, but no one believed me.
Un-bloody believable. You know, it's perhaps no wonder that there are only a handful of dinosaur video games available on the PS1. Clearly, after this thing came out, very few people wanted to go anywhere near the genre. Just think, from the first day the PlayStation was released, a bright-eyed and optimistic Sony showed everyone just what could be achieved with their new console. The potential for playable dinosaurs was palpable, and some people made a pretty good go of it. But, unfortunately for us, other developers out there were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, that they didn't stop to think if they should. Anyway, now go outside and have sex with someone, I guess. See you later.